Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today for part 3 of the Bead Embroidery smartphone case project on this Bead with Me YouTube live series. I just want to give you all a heads up. I don't have any help today with the kids and they're all awake right now. So I have 3 kids if you don't know, and including an 18-month-old baby who's not ready for her nap yet. So I may have to pause at various points and do a little bit of parenting, and I will jump right back when I can. So I apologize if there's any interruption due to that. It's just a unfortunate consequence of the times we're living in right now. So welcome, thank you for joining me. Hi everybody, hi Jan, hi Marsha, hi Mimi, hi Linda, hi Maureen, hi Sue, hi Dana, hi Sandra, hi Kim. Welcome everybody. Hi to everybody who is about to join us. And I'm going to start by showing you some progress photos of the steps that came in between what you saw last week on my live YouTube video and what you're going to see today for my smartphone case. So the first picture I want to show you is putting the glue on the back of the smartphone case. I had finished the bead embroidery at this point, and I spread the glue all over the back side, all over the threads that are holding the beads on the front in place. I even went past the edges of where the thread was just to make sure I was going to have a really good bond to the leather. The next thing I did was I placed the leather down on the glue so that I could see the front side of the leather. That'll end up being the inside of the phone case. I pushed down all over the back of the bead embroidery to make sure that there was going to be a really good bond between all the different parts. And then I turned the piece over, and this is how I allowed it to rest overnight. I actually filled up a plastic shopping bag with some sand from our pool area outside and placed the bag of sand on top of the bead embroidery, making sure every part of the beads had the sand on it. This was to weigh down the beadwork overnight while the glue cured to make sure that all of the surface area would be really well stuck to the leather. The kind of glue that I use, thank you for asking, is tacky glue. Let's see if it's here still. I think I brought it downstairs, but it was a white Jewel Bond tacky glue. You could use any kind of fabric glue or white tacky type glue for this. Any craft glue will really work. Fabric glue or jewel glue or anything that will hold jewels down or fabric down will work for this. And then once I left it overnight, I cut out the edges of the bead embroidery so that I could make sure that it fit well to my phone case. There is a part of the phone case that bows out a little bit. If you look at the edge that's like sort of on the top in this photo, there's a part that bows out where I had some beadwork that went a little beyond the edge of the bead embroidery of the line that I had traced to outline where my phone was, the tracing of my phone. But that's okay. I'm just gonna live with it. It's gonna be what it is. And if I decide to add picos onto my edge beads later, that'll kind of get covered up anyway. So those are the 4 photos I wanted to show you. Now I want to show you what my phone case looks like right now as is. So that's it on top of my phone. This is the phone case as it is today. I did all of the edging, which I'm going to demonstrate first for you today. I added the size 11 edge beads all along of the edge where the leather and non-woven stitching base met. So this was a raw edge before, but I did brick stitch edging to add beads on there. Now I found that this is real leather. This is lambskin leather, just like the stuff that they were selling at Bijou last Saturday. That's where I got it. And when you're stitching through real leather, you need a very strong needle. You will break a lot of needles if you just use beading needles for this. So you want to get a sharp needle. They're called sharps, the John James ones, or Glover needles, gloving needles. I used a Glover's needle, which I can't find at the moment. And there's a baby down here messing with my stuff, so she actually just took it. She's fine. She was just holding onto the thread gingerly, but this is my... No, it's not yours. Did you hear that? Sorry if you hear Pocoyo in the background, too. I'm trying to do something that's going to keep them occupied. Here, baby. Here, I'm just going to show you this little rascal that's messing with my table right now. Yeah, you can take that. You can take the pencil. Here, you can take this heart. Here you go. Yeah, here you go. Alright, so back to the beading. So this is a gloving needle or glover's needle. I'm trying to show you this edge that it has. I'm trying to see if my camera can get focused here. It has this very sharp cut side to it, and it's bent right now. It doesn't come bent, but just getting my needle through the leather multiple times made it bend. So it has this flat edge. It's very, very sharp, and I had to actually use a thimble when I was doing the edging to get through both layers, the leather and the non-woven stitching base with the glue in between, because it's pretty hard couple layers to get through. I'll be right back. I just gotta comfort the baby. She just fell. She's very clumsy. Where is my be right back scene? My be right back. There we go. Oh, she's okay. Okay. So I'm going to show you how I did the edging. Hi, Emily. Hi, Melanie. Hi, Esther. I already said hi to you, Lynn. Hi, Julie. Hi, Kathleen. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Shirley. I think I got everybody. Okay, so this is what the raw edge looks like when you have leather glued to the bead embroidery base. And since I'm not particularly fond of just looking at this edge like this, I decided to do the brick stitch edging to cover up the edge. And I'm going to demonstrate how I did that. So you start with either a new thread or the thread from your bead embroidery. And it's pretty tough to get through. I managed to get that through without using my thimble, but the thimble's good when it's really too hard to get through with just your fingers. You also may need pliers when you're pulling the needle through, because it can kind of get stuck in the two layers. So I'm starting close to the edge. I'm going to pick up two size 11 seed beads, are a good size for this thickness of leather and the heavyweight Peltex or lacy stiff stuff, that sort of thickness of fabric. It ends up being about between 2 and 3 millimeters wide, so a size 11 is nice to cover this up. If it's any thicker than that, I'll go up to a size 8 seed bead. That's okay, Jill. Hi, how are you? It's okay that you're running late. No worries. I've got some stuff going on. I may be interrupted a few times by the kids because they're all here and all awake, and I don't have help today. All right, so I'm going to turn this over. I like to, when I'm doing the edging with leather, tend to go, it's easier for me to go from the non-woven side out to the leather side. It's just easier for me to make sure I've got a good foothold in the non-woven stitching base with my needle. So I'm placing it a couple beads width away from where the thread started, about a bead's width down from the edge, so that I can make sure I actually catch a good amount of the non-woven stitching base in the leather, and I'm piercing through. I did have to use my thimble a little bit on that. Alright, so then I'm going to pull, and I'm going to stitch back through just the second of those two beads, sort of going from the edge out. And pull tight. The first bead is not going to sit right. It's always going to be a little wonky when you're doing this edging technique until you come around and go back through it again or straighten it out by hand. So to demonstrate that, again, for the following stitches, after the first stitch, which uses two beads, you're going to add just one bead at a time. So I've got my one size 11 seed bead on there. I'm going to go about half bead's width away from the last bead, stitching through the edge, close to the edge, from the non-woven side to the leather side. And if you could see, it took a good amount of force to pierce through there. Dia, can you help her get her book that she wants, please, honey? I'm lucky that Adelia is 4 4.5, and she's a very good helper when she wants to be now. So she's gonna help Estella get the book that she couldn't reach. What's the matter, babe? Dia, can you help her, please? So then I went back through the bead and pulled tight, and now the beads, you're gonna see the beads start to sit nicely as you go along. The more beads you add and get away from that first pair of beads, the nicer they're gonna look. And in hindsight, I probably should have chosen a lighter colored thread. I'm using 6-pound Fireline for this. You could use nylon thread. It just depends what you're comfortable with. I just thought a stronger thread on the edge might be good in case my phone drops and those beads get broken, or there's some friction on the ends because of holding the phone. I thought a stronger thread might be better. But I should have probably used crystal Fireline, but I'm gonna not worry about it at this point. This is mainly utilitarian, this project, so it is what it is right now. We're gonna see the stitches, that's okay. Alright, so see how those are starting to sit really nice along the edge? Come on, camera, focus for me. Come on. Alright, so that's I'm gonna put down the demo now. This would be the side that there's beads on, but this is just my little sample piece. So to show you on my phone, I started up toward the corner of the part that I'm going to have the, there's going to be a flap here for closing the case around my phone so that I can undo it if I have to and take the phone out. So this is my old case that I'm showing you now. I have this flap on the side with a little button, a German glass flower button. That's how this one closes. I'm debating on this one whether I'm going to use leather, a leather flap, or a non-woven stitching base with leather, or beads. I'm not sure at this point what I want to do. I'm thinking about the leather option. But this is actually the bottom of my phone. On that old phone case, the flap was at the top, so it would have been up here on this new phone. But I decided because this is thin here, I just want to have a continuous bezel around my phone at this point. I don't want to have the flap be up here because I had to leave this cut out, and I don't think it's going to be as strong if I have the flap here. So the flap is going to be on the bottom side, so I can pull my phone out from the bottom. So I started my edging, worked all the way around up to here to leave this section open for adding the flap later. I'm going to do the bezel first, and then I'll worry about the flap. Alright, so now the bezel, how you start that, I'll show you on the old case. It's actually going to be peyote stitch with delicas starting close to where the flap is, back a little bit, just to give a little bit of space, and you have to be mindful of where the important things are on the face of your phone. We're going to start with a row of 2-bead back stitch with the cylinder beads, working our way down and around. And then off of that row of 2-bead back stitch, we'll do peyote stitch. Alright, so I have to get my Glover's needle ready, because again I'm going to have to go through the 2 layers of non-woven and leather. So I'm going to need my Glover's needle, and I'm going to need my cylinder beads. I'm using size 10 cylinder beads for this. They're just a little bit bigger than size 11 cylinder beads, and I'll show you both for comparison. These are size 11 cylinder beads. And these are size 10 cylinder beads. So it's not too big a difference. I think that seeing them blown up huge like this makes the difference look bigger, but this is a size 11 seed bead. So size 11 seed bead is sort of right in between the size 11 cylinder bead and the size 10 cylinder bead. So really not that much bigger. And the stitching does tend to go faster because you have to use fewer of them. If you're using a lot of beads, it just makes it go quicker. Does anyone have any questions while I'm going to get my needle started here in my beadwork? Do you guys hear the baby talking? She's talking to the TV. There's a bunch of flowers on the TV, so she's talking to the flowers. Oh, she's funny. Alright, I'm getting my needle started. I'm just stitching through the non-woven stitching base close to the corner. Oops. I think I have a knot in my fire line. Ugh, okay, I'm starting a new piece of fire line. I don't want to have to deal with pulling that knot through every time. Do you have to use delicas for the edging? Sandra, so no, I'm not using delicas for the edging. The edging is this part here. The part that I already did, the brick stitch that covers up the raw edge of the leather and the non-woven stitching base. I didn't use delicas for that. I used size 11 seed beads. You could use delicas for that, size 10 or 11. For the bezel, I would recommend using cylinder beads or delicas for the part that I'm going to show you now, the part that you end up doing peyote stitch, because the peyote stitch just ends up so much neater when you use cylinder beads rather than seed beads. So yes, I do recommend using cylinder beads. You could probably do it with seed beads. It's just not going to come out as orderly and as neat. When you think of doing like a peyote stitch strip with seed beads versus cylinder beads, it's not going to be as uniform. They're not going to fit together like bricks the way that cylinder beads do. So with seed beads, you could definitely do it, but it's going to be a little messier looking. And I mean, if that's all you have, you could definitely do it. And I don't think that anyone would even, notice. Maybe another beater if they were looking real close, but it would work with seed beads. But I like the uniformity of the cylinder beads for this part. All right, so I'm anchoring this thread by just going through. I did knot it, but I'm also going to go through a couple times because I want to make sure that I have a really good, this is held really well in the material so that I'm not going to, the thread's not going to come loose at any point. Once I'm confident that it's held in really well, I'm going to come up as close as I can to the edge without thinking that my piercing the leather is going to cut it. So it's not close enough to the edge to actually cut through to the edge, but it's very close. All right, let's see. And as you're doing this, you want to kind of test where your phone is. I actually should have probably left a little more room. This is the part that was bowing out that you could see in the photo. I probably should have left a little more room around my bead embroidery to allow for the edge beads to sit in place. So I'm going to have to get real close to the edge, I see. But that's okay. I'm going to make it work. These are beads. There's flexibility to this medium that makes it really nice. It makes you be able to solve problems like that occur. So I'm going to get my thimble ready because I might need that. I'm going to start with my 2 size 10 cylinder beads. I don't like that one. I'm going to get a different one. Okay. And I'm going to stitch down about 2 beads width away through my leather and then through my non-woven stitching base. I'm going to get this a little closer. And there's a vacuum in the way of my needle pulling it. Someday, very soon, I'm going to have a finished beading studio in my basement. And then I won't have vacuums in the way. Alright, so I've then just stitched up through the non-woven and the leather back to the start of where my 2 beads are. Now I'm going to stitch through those 2 cylinder beads again. Message retracted. I didn't even know you could do that. Alright, so I've got my first 2 back-stitched beads on there. The other thing you want to be careful of when you're doing this is that, oops, this is the wrong way. No, that was the right way. Okay. I'm putting my phone in here. I am going to need to make sure that my bezel, I don't have bezel where the important parts of the phone on the sides are that I'm going to need to access. So when I get up to this point here, I'm going to need to stop doing my 2-bead backstitch. I think I'm going to put a needle in there so that I remember when I get to that point to stop. I'm going to stop it a little further out from where this button is so that I have room. There's a thickness to these beads. I'm going to have enough room to actually stick my finger in there and press, this is the volume button, I think, press the volume button on both sides. So I'm going to want to stop about here so I have plenty of room. So I'm going to stick that needle in that edge bead as a marker so that I remember to stop my edging there. Oh, thank you. Finished studio. Yes, it will be nice. Right now, my workspace is primarily in the basement still, just because that's the room we have in the house for this stuff. It's very cold in there in the winter. I'm in Connecticut, and we get lots of snow, and it gets to be very cold, below freezing, and the basement gets really cold. So it's going to all be insulated. I'm working on it now whenever I can in little spurts of time. I started it before the whole quarantine thing, and hopefully I'll finish before the end of the year. We'll see. So I'm now going 3 beads back. I picked up 2 beads, went through the stitching base, and I'm stitching up 3 beads back. And then I'm going to go through the 3 cylinder beads. Going 3 beads back and adding 2 beads each time is a way to get a really nice, neat peyote stitch once you get this row on and you start doing peyote stitch. I gotta use my thimble here to push this through. It's not going through on its own. Okay, got it. And I'm also experiencing a little tingling in my thumb and my forefinger because I did a lot of garden work yesterday. It involved a lot of shoveling. And I think I wore out my carpals a little bit. I got a little bit of carpal tunnel going on. It's making it kind of difficult to push the needle through. Do you guys hear the baby's toy singing? It's this little dog that sings. That's one of Estella's favorite toys. Alright, so just 2 beads at a time. This is going to take some time. I think I'm going to turn this around. Pull this up a little bit. No, I can't turn it up. No, honey.
But I can't hear it when Stella's playing her doggy. Too loud.
One of my favorite parenting strategies is to just ignore the problem and see if it goes away on its own. No, Lynn, I'm not busy at all. Nope. I'm sorry, honey. We're just gonna... If this does turn into a full-blown tantrum, I will have to pause and go deal with it. The problem is that the baby's toy is interfering with Adelia watching her show. She can't hear it as well because the singing toy is kind of loud. I'm going to have to go turn down the volume if Estella doesn't stop playing with it. Is anybody working on this part right now? Oh, Shirley, yeah, she's very, very logical and very articulate. She said, what did she say to us yesterday? It was so funny. Oh, she said, Mom, if I forgot to tell you, the water in the bathtub exaggerates. And she meant to say evaporates, but I was just proud of her that she used all those words. Or she said, in case I forgot to tell you. She uses a lot of words that are surprising for a 4-year-old. Sam, you're asking what kind of leather you're using. I'm using sheepskin leather sold by Bijou Bead Store. I got it a couple years ago when I was there. And they actually just had a leather reveal last Saturday. Not sure if they have leather left from that, but they were doing like a live unveiling of each large sheet of leather on their Facebook Live. So you can look them up, Bijou Bead Store. That's Beadjoux Bead Store. So on the front, when I'm making these stitches, when I have to stitch back, I'm making sure that my thread does not get caught on any of the beads that are there. And there's actually a little bit of space between the beadwork and the edge in a lot of cases. If I decide that that bothers me later, I can go back and add some beads by making sure I have really tiny stitches on the leather side, just but doing bead embroidery like through both layers. Phone is crashing. You're getting a new one tomorrow. I'm not sure on the size. Oh, okay. Yeah. You definitely want to have your phone before you start doing this. And any case you might have that you're going to be doing this case around, you want to make sure you have that in hand before you start the bead embroidery. Because you got to know what size you're making it, where the cutouts are and stuff. Thanks, Lynn. If anybody wants to know the spelling of bijou, if you didn't catch me spelling it earlier, where I got this silver leather, it's lambskin, and Bijou Bead Store is the name. Lynn just posted the name in the chat so you could see it spelled out. They do have an Etsy shop where they are selling their leather. Are you going to push Jack? Nope, baby's coming over to say hi. Hey, sweetie. Oh, not the phone case, honey. I need that. Take the heart. Yeah, take the heart. What? Oh, she's not happy because I wouldn't let her have my old phone case. Do you want to say hi? You want to look at the screen? Look. Look. You say hi. Say hi. Hi. Good job. Hi. I saw some really cool photos from some of you on my Facebook. Thank you for sharing your progress with the your smartphone cases. If anybody else, if you feel bold, feel like sharing photos of your phone case that you're working on Facebook. I usually post my progress throughout the week, and then ask you guys if you have photos to share. I love seeing everybody's designs. Everybody's doing awesome. I love just seeing how other people's minds work and what they come up with. Because we're all so limited in the way we think. We have our own experiences and our own way of doing things. And it's just like a breath of fresh air to see how other people do things, what colors you put together, and shapes and components that you have. So please keep sharing. I love seeing them. So this process is quite time consuming, getting the bezel started. Once you have your back stitched row, it goes a little bit faster.
Just a little teeny bit.
Okay, honey. I'll turn it up in a minute, okay? Now it's probably me talking that's interfering with the show. You're so late. That's okay, Lori. No worries. You can go back and watch it later. I'm doing well. I got all 3 kids with me here right now. They're all awake, and 2 out of the 3 are watching cartoons. The baby's wandering around, sometimes watching, sometimes trying to grab my things off of this table. She just said hi a little while ago, so go back and watch her cute little hello if you want later after this live watch ends. I'm just doing the 2 bead back stitch row that the peyote stitch bezel is going to come off of. And I have this needle here as a marker if anybody has just joined us, because I need to stop there for this section of the bezel, because I have volume buttons here. Volume and something else, maybe the power button. I haven't even turned on this phone yet, so I don't know how it works, but I know I need to stop there so that I don't get too close to the button. I'm going to leave that space open. No bezel is going to be there.
I didn't turn it off yet.
Yes, dear. Almost there, and then I'll be able to show you the peyote stitch. So on the front side here, I'm either going to have to skip over these beads. I'm actually going to just stitch through these beads on the surface to get over, to go back and go through these 3 cylinder beads. I think I'm going to end up adding 4 more beads total before I can stop and start doing peyote stitch. Ow! Oh. I just had that thing happen where you get like a feeling of electricity through your wrist when you've been working it too much and you've got that carpal tunnel stuff going on, and I dropped my thimble. Oh. Okay, back to the races. So I know I have to add 2 more. My needle fell out, but I had already kind of held beads up and measured. So these are the last 2 I'm adding now before the little break in the bezel. Poor Adelia, the middle child. I tell her I'm going to do something, and then 20 minutes later, if she's lucky, she gets what she wants. Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. I'll let you look at that for a minute while I go turn the volume up on the television. I'll be right back. Alright, so now that I have part of my bezel done, I'm going to show you starting the peyote stitch. And normally, if I were just sitting down doing this by myself, I would do the other parts of the 2 bead back stitch so that I have all of my parts of my bezel set up. So I'm going to put a tiny little strip of peyote stitch here, I think, just 2 beads wide, so that I have something holding the phone in place at that point. I think it'd be too much space left open if I left this whole section open. Then I'm going to start peyote stitch again over here, work my way around, keep going. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave that open. I think I'm going to do the 2 bead back stitch past this point and not leave the 2 bead back stitch out for this little microphone hole, but I think once I'm doing the peyote stitch, I'm going to try to leave 1 bead out there, just so it doesn't the beading doesn't interfere too much with the sound that's coming into the phone. And then I'm going to go around the corner doing back stitch. I'm going to do my back stitch past this point. This is just the opening for where either the SIM card or the micro SD card or both can go into the phone. And since I'm not going to need to be accessing that on a daily basis, I'm just going to do the bezel over it, because I can always take my phone out of the case if I need to access that. This whole side, actually, I'll be able to just do the back stitch all the way around. And then I'm going to stop here because, again, like I said earlier, if you missed it, I'm going to add my flap to this bottom side of the phone. So I'm going to show you on my old phone case again. I had this flap to be able to close the case over the phone, but be able to open it up and take the phone out if I have to. And I'm debating at the moment whether I'm going to be doing that with beads or with leather and non-woven stitching base. I'm thinking about the leather and non-woven stitching base option. And so if I do that, I'm going to attach that to this edge. So I want to leave this edge raw. I don't want to have beads on there. If I were doing beading, for sure I would just do brick stitch edging the whole way. But I think I'm going to do the leather, and I'm going to cut it so that there's a hole. So this metal section here is not going to be covered up. And I want to make sure I leave a hole so that this isn't covered up either. So I might just have kind of two sides that come, and then have this area in here be a hole, and then have it be sort of a half donut shaped and come up here. But I'm going to worry about that after the bezel. Alright, so now back to where we were with the peyote stitch. With the peyote stitch, let's see how I can do this. I don't need my thimble right now. You can actually switch your needle over to a beading needle when you get to this part. You don't need the gloving or glover's needle or sharp needle for just doing peyote stitch because you're just going through beads. So I'm going to pick up a bead. This is a size 10 delica. I'm skipping over this last bead that my thread is coming out of, and I'm stitching through the one before it. So I've got one little peyote stitch there. Then I'm going to repeat. Pick up a bead, skip over the next bead, go through the bead after that. So I've got my second one there. So you just keep going. Oops, I didn't skip a bead. I guess I have to talk myself through it. Skip over a bead, go through the bead after that. So everybody's phones are, all the different phone models are like different thicknesses. So as you're going, you're going to have to test your phone. You're going to have to place it on your case to see how many rows of this peyote stitch you're going to need to do. It's also going to depend on what size and shape of beads you're using. And that's not something you're necessarily going to know ahead of time. It's just something you're going to have to figure out as you go. So I'm just getting to the end of the row here. And this is the key. This is why I did an even number. I added 2 beads at a time. Because now I can just turn around, pick up my next bead for my next row, and stitch through the up bead. It's the last bead I added. I'm not sure if this light is helping or hurting. This leather is so shiny, it's throwing off the rest of the white balance. Alright, so this is the first bead in the next row, right here. I'm getting a knot. I need to pull my... Oh, how does this happen, people? This is like the craziest thing. This is why I don't understand knitting, because I don't understand how knots happen when you can't access, like when you don't, your end of your thread doesn't go around in a loop that you physically make. I don't understand it. Knitting is magical to me, and I'll never get it, and I'll never do it. I just appreciate it. Alright, so this is my next row of peyote stitch. I'm just going along. After I do this row, I'm going to put my phone in so I can compare how high this peyote stitch is to the thickness of my phone. Alright, so this is my last bead in was technically the 4th row. You can count your rows, if you don't know, by counting what look like stairs in the piece. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also count the number of beads on each edge. If you're doing a flat strip of peyote like this, I have 2 on this edge and 2 on this edge, and if I add those together, that's my number of rows. What color size 10 cylinders are you using? I am using, let me find the container. 12, color number 12. So that's, I believe, the same if you're using size 8, 10, or 11 delicas. That's the same color number. Alright, so I'm going to put my phone in here. Where is my phone? I'm going to put my phone in here and see how this looks compared to the edge. I'm going to flatten it against my phone. So I see that I need at least a couple more rows. Come on, focus. There we go. I need at least a couple more rows. If this is held in tight, like I'm holding it with my fingers. Yep. Does anyone else have questions as I'm going? Because I got to add a couple more rows here, so I'm just going to be doing some stitching. Oh, really? Aga. I love that Estella's trying to talk. You want to pull as tight as you can with this. You really want your beads to be held well together. And they're going to be doing a lot of work. They're going to be holding your phone in place, which is heavy compared to how heavy these individual beads are. So you're going to want this to be tight. Otherwise, the weight of the phone could stretch out your thread over time between the beads, and then you could end up having thread showing, having a looser weave. In fact, when I do the rest of this, I'm going to use doubled thread. This is fireline. I'm going to use doubled fireline for this. So it's not a bad idea to use doubled thread when you're doing the 2 bead back stitch and when you're doing the peyote stitch after it. Oops, I picked up 2 beads there. I was so close to the end. Mistakes usually happen when I'm getting close to the end because I'm just excited to finish. The front looks gorgeous. Thanks, Lori. I'm pretty happy with it. It ended up being a lot more purple than I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. Alright, so I've got this part of the bezel. I'm going to compare it to my phone. I think I need at least one more row to reach the top of the phone. I'm just pressing this in. Yep, at least one more row. Probably 2, actually. What's going to happen after I'm finished with the peyote stitch part of the bezel is I'm going to switch to netting. And I'll show you on my old phone case. So I'm going to need to extend out a flap on the first part of the peyote stitch in order to have something to have my, my flap, my opening, to attach to when the phone is in. So let's put the phone in there. This sort of holds the phone in place, and then the flap closes it up. So I'm going to need to extend that there. That's going to be in this portion of the bezel. But in the rest of it, I'm going to do, oh goodness, that's funky. Did you guys just see something really weird happen with my screen? So I'm going to do edging, I'm going to do netting with size 15 seed beads. Huh, something strange is happening on this end with my camera. I'm going to just see if I unplug my document camera real quick and plug it back in, if that solves the problem. Alright, so I restarted my document camera. Hopefully it doesn't do that again, that was weird. Okay, so I'm going to do netting. It's doing it again. It doesn't like something about when I turn this up. That is the weirdest thing. Okay, I won't turn it up anymore. So I'm going to do netting with, I think I'm going to try 5 15s between each of the beads in the final row of peyote stitch as I'm going around. Because doing that netting allows you, when you get to the corners of the bezel, for the row after that, to reduce the number of beads you have in between the points of that first netting row in order to pull in the bezel in the corners. And that's something you might have to experiment with a little bit as you're going along. Basically, you want the netting and then the row after that to be flat along the edge of your phone, and then you want it to curve in when you get to the corner of your phone or your device. And then you want it to go flat again along the next edge, and then curve in again in the next corner and go back to flat. Alright, so I need at least one more row of peyote stitch. I'm guessing it's going to be actually 2 rows, because you want your peyote stitch to reach right up to the edge of your device. It's kind of hard to show it, but I'm talking and it's interfering with Adelia watching her cartoon. We've got 8 more minutes. Well, I started late, so 11 more minutes. We can do this, right? So the cylinder beads go right up to the top of the edge of the device. And I actually added a row of 15 seed beads between the final row of delicas.
Hey, remember what I said about interrupting Mom during the class? You're just going to have to watch and see what they're doing.
So cylinder beads go right up to the edge of the device. So I want to make sure when I fit this in, my cylinder beads are going right up to the edge. So like up to this point here. And one thing you can also do to have something to compare. It's hard when there's a curve on the edge to see how things are lining up. But this is a trick I do with like construction too. You take something that you know is flat, and it's better if it's something more rigid than the leather that I'm using, but just as an example. You take something flat and hold it against the edge and push it out so it extends past the edge. Come on, camera. And then you can kind of see where the 2 edges are going to meet. So I need 2 more rows on this. Cat hair. My cat loves to sit on my bead mat. I do not like that. Can I talk about, oh, I missed a couple of questions. Sorry, let's see. Vivian wanted to know, or Tony, it's Tony, right? Wanted to know about my leather thimble. Honestly, I don't remember when I got this. I think I got it years ago. Maybe I bought it at Beads East where I used to work. It says it's a coin thimble. I think that's all I can really tell you about it. Coin thimble. I can't read this word on the other side. Maybe clover? I honestly don't know. It's made of leather and it has this little coin of the metal thimble material sewn into it. Okay, other questions. You don't do any decreases on the corners of the peyote part of the bezel, correct? Correct, I don't. See if you could see if my camera can focus on this corner of the peyote stitch bezel. There's no decreases there because the edge is flat. Like the edge of the phone, it curves around, but the edge itself is still flat. So you want the peyote strip to be flat as it goes around the curve. Can I talk about the peyote corners after decrease? Oh, Emily, that's basically the same question that Shirley asked. So hopefully I answered your question. If not, let me know in the chat. Where do I get my Glover needles? Well, I get my Glover needles from my wholesale supplier. So I'm not sure where you could get them. A lot of bead stores do carry them. The ones that I have are John James brand. I'm not sure if they're the only brand of Glover's needles that are out there right now, but they're the only ones that I have used. I would try just doing a Google search for size 10, size 11, or size 12 Glover's needles. And it's Glover's with an apostrophe S. I don't know if I have the package here. I think I do. I can show you the package. Someone online or on Etsy, like on someone with a regular, bead store website, or someone on Etsy has to carry them. All right, that's my second to last row, and I'm gonna have one more. I'm just gonna look in my bead case. Do I have my bead? Oh, my computer's right on it. Pardon me, lifting up my computer. Okay, I've got my sharps case I'll show you because those work too. And oh, Kathleen Fritz at Bead Soup in Maryland has them. So Kathleen, how can they get in touch with you if they want to order Glover's needles from you? Let me know in the chat and I'll announce it. Bijou has them too. That's great. Okay, so these are the Glover's needles. You can tell I've had these a long time. I actually think I'm not using the 12s right now. I think I have a package of 10s as well, but this is what they look like, the package. And then this is the sharps. Tim Lee at Joann's. So I'm guessing that's Joann's fabric store. But yeah, contact Bijou or Bead Soup if you want to get those. Or just do a Google search. Alright, so I'm starting my final row. And that's just for this section of the bezel. But you can see this really hasn't taken too long to do. I mean, it's taken me the better part of an hour to do what I've got right here, but it's a good chunk of the whole bezel. So you could have a good amount done in a few hours. And it's definitely gone faster than if I were to use size 11 cylinder beads, that's for sure. These are size 10. Alright, so if you want Glover's needles from Kathleen at Bead Soup, she says you can email her at info, I-N-F-O, at bead-soup.com. So that's bead soup, but with a dash in between the two words. And Bijou, I'm assuming they have them either in their Etsy store, on Facebook. I like to support local bead stores whenever possible, so thank you ladies for letting us know that those local bead shops have them. Alright, so I'm comparing now that I think this is my final row. Yep, so this is right up to the edge where the glass of my phone case stops. And I'm making sure I squeeze this well so that it's sort of a true measure of where it stops. And that's how it's gonna sit. I'm gonna have plenty of room to get my fat finger in there to press the volume button. And after that, I will add my 5 size 15 seed beads at a time. There is something else though I want to mention. So in these sections here that I'm gonna have to leave open, I'm gonna end up with, the next thing I'll do is I'll do just a 2 bead peyote stitch strip here. Start with just 2 beads in the back stitch and then do a 2 bead peyote here. I'll do the same number of rows as here, and I'll do a strip here as well. And this strip that starts here will go all the rest of the way around my phone case. Then I'm actually going to need to connect those individual strips before I do the netting with the 5 15-0C beads. So what I'll do to connect them is I'll add an even number of cylinder beads between the sections. So I'll have my 2 bead peyote stitch here. I'll come from this bead here, pick up an even number of beads, and stitch through the first bead in this peyote stitch strip here. And that's so that I'll be able to have a continuous row off of which to do the netting all the way around. If that sounds confusing, I will take a photo when I'm doing that part between now and next week, and I'll share the photos on my Instagram and my Facebook so you can see what that looks like when you connect those 2 parts with a single line of beads. Also, I do have a pattern for the smartphone case in my online shop if you haven't bought it. It's sort of like supplemental to this class series, but it can be helpful if you want to see exactly how I made this phone case. And it sort of tells you exactly how to make this, even the pattern and everything. And so that goes through the process of adding words are failing me, the netting and closing that up. So you can purchase that on my website, mgsdesigns.net, if you go to the shop, and then if you go to patterns, it's in there as a downloadable PDF. Does anyone have any questions before I wrap it up? The next thing I'm going to do is that 2 bead strip right there. So I think I'll actually tie off this thread and use it to start over there, and I'm gonna double it when I do the little strip over there. Adelia, do you want to come over and say hi before I finish my class? I'm going to see if Adelia wants to come over. Yeah, I'm about to say bye, so if you want to come over and say hi, now's the time. If you want to pause it. You don't want to pause it? Okay. Adelia's coming to say hi. That's all you get. You just get a silent hi because she's busy watching her cartoons. Great job. Thanks, Lori. I appreciate that. Oh, Estella's coming to say hi now. You gonna say hi, baby? Yeah. Good job. Hi, everybody. Hi. Bye. Good girl. What? More what? She's saying more something. I don't know. Good job. Take care of that wrist. I will, Julie. I probably won't do any more beading today, and I might not even do any more shoveling today. I'm just gonna take it easy. I know she's big, isn't she? They're both big. The kids, they just tend to grow, don't they? It's not fair. So thank you everyone for joining me. This has been part 3 of my bead embroidery smartphone case project in the Bead with Me online YouTube series of classes. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, you can find me on Facebook. My profile is Melissa Grekowski Shippey on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at mgsdesigns_insta. You can find me on Twitter at mgsdesigns_net. And you can find me, you can email me at grekowski@gmail.com, and I'll spell that out. GRAKOWSKY @gmail.com. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a fabulous weekend. Stay well, stay busy, and bead on. Bye!